Hello, welcome to The Brand Called You. Today we are talking with Maggee Miggins. Maggee is a lifelong resident of this area. She was born in South Orange, raised in Maplewood, and has been living in Melbourne Short Hills for well over 20 years with her husband and two children. She was educated at Fairleigh Dickinson University. She runs her own real estate broker associate business since 1995 in Melbourne Short Hills. She's a member of the New Jersey Realtors Legislative Committee, president of the Melbourne Township Beautification League, a founding member of her church stewardship committee, a founding member of United Way Short Hills chapter of Women in Leadership, and Cultural Engagement, Diversity and Arts Committee. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time, Maggee.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Sandeep.
Let's start by getting to know you a little bit more. You have pretty much lived around this part of the state and country for all your life. How
Yes.
have these towns changed over last, I don't want to guess your age, but last, 20, 30 years as you have seen them evolve?
You're a good man not to ask my age. Thank you very much. So as you said, I was born and raised in South Orange, and I'm one of six children. So I grew up in this really big Irish Catholic family, and 2 blocks to our church. It's where I went to grammar school, Our Lady of Sorrows. And growing up, it was great. You know, I was thinking about this earlier. Just on my block alone, the 4 corners of our block, there were over 30 kids. So you could every family had 6 or 7 children. That's just what they did back in the 60s, 70s. And I mean, for those who are on the call, they might have remembered, I remember going to downtown South Orange Village and going to Grunnings and getting ice cream. It was the best. So things have changed. There used to be a Grunnings on the hill. It's now the top, the apartment building. The different stores that have been there that are no longer there. And it's the same in Melbourne and in Maplewood. When I did get married, my husband, Mike, and we moved to Maplewood. It was where we lived for 10 years, raising our children, Danny and Lizzie. And then, yes, we have been in Short Hills for 22 years. And I've been in the real estate business for over 25 years. And has it changed? Yeah, the towns are always changing. And that's a great thing.
Was it as much people moving in from New York or other places? Was it as much of a commute town or not really? Or was it as diverse? Probably I've seen that become more diverse even in the 10 years I've been here.
Yeah, and I think that's great, by the way. Well, when I was younger, the train did not go into New York City like it does today. And so the minute that happened, boom, property values went up. People coming out from the city wanted a little bit of the suburbs, a backyard, a place to raise their children, find schools, but still the easy access back into New York City. So when I was younger, no, you didn't go into the Marston, Essex. As a child, you know, it was the Erie Lackawanna is what it was called. But that all changed with the train going into the city. And so, yes, we've had, you know, sometimes they'll refer to South Orange and Maplewood as Brooklyn West. You know, and what we would see and what I'm seeing, which I absolutely love, is I've been in the real estate industry for 25 years. I'm starting to see the children that grew up in these towns coming back to raise their own families in these towns. And I think that's amazing. That really, that makes my heart swell.
So your real estate business, which I saw you started in 1995, tell us what's the difference between a real estate broker and a broker associate business that you run?
So a broker can run their own shop. They can hang their shingle and run their own shop. So, and brokers go to school and go for extra hours to get their broker's license. So that's the difference. Most people stay sales associates. This was just an extra layer of education. And it was that if I ever wished to open my own brokerage office, I could. So I am the Maggee Miggins Group at Compass Real Estate. I'm under the umbrella and brand of Compass Real Estate. In fact, I have my own little boutique office right on Chatham Road next to the Short Hills Post Office across from the train station. But our corporate offices are up at the mall at Short Hills in the industrial space. And so that's really the difference. We have a broker up there as well. My broker is Michelle, but I do have my broker's license.
Yeah. So it's a business in which several different people work as realtors. Is that what the main difference is?
Yeah, so you always have a broker of record within the office, and that's myself. And then
Yeah.
there are sales associates that work there, and you can be a broker as well and not practice your being a broker. You know there are some
Okay.
agents that are brokers that wanted
Mm.
to go for the extra education, but you do need to have a broker's license in order to have established an office.
Okay. You also have a long list of activities that you are participating, and I noticed many of them you were a founding member, whether it's the United Way, your church committee, or the Junior League. Several of these that you have started. Tell me a little bit about how do you decide this is something I want to get involved in? What drives you? What is your motivation? What excites you about a project?
So I'm going to correct you a little bit, just so you know. I was not a founding member of our stewardship committee, although I'm a member of our stewardship committee
Okay.
at St. Rose. I am sure every church, temple, synagogue has some type of mosque, has some type of stewardship committee. I was asked to participate in that, and that's important because that's, you know, you need to have stewardship within your communities in order to, you know, keep everything running. As far as the CEDA, which is the Cultural Engagement, Diversity and Arts Committee, that was through the township. And I was asked by Mayor Jackie Benjamin Lieberberg to join that committee. And I'm thrilled that she did. And you meet a diverse group of people all across our town, and I love that. And as far as I think you had said Township Beautification League, I was the former president of the Township Beautification League, and that is a volunteer organization. I think it's very important that we give back to our communities, the places where we live. I think my family, the way we were raised, was always to be of service to others. And so if there is time that I can do that, and I can, then I do think it's important we do give back.
So is there a pattern? Is there something you look for, or as opportunities come, if they look good, you jump in? Is there
No,
some
no,
unifying theme in your activities?
not at all. So there, too much is given, much is always expected, I believe. And when you're asked, sometimes people see something in you that they feel is the right fit for whatever they're trying to run. So if I'm asked to do something, I believe that somebody thinks it's the right fit, that I make the right fit for it. And so when I'm asked to do things, I don't like to say no. There's a reason why I'm being asked. I believe that, and I believe that I can then give back. And so that's important to me, whether it's the Memorial Day Parade Committee, which is near and dear to my heart as I have family in the military, or volunteer on the 4th of July committee, because there's nothing like a happy birthday. I love a birthday, and it's our country's birthday. I think when people ask you to do things, you do it. You just do.
Okay. Well,
it's how
thank
I
you for doing
behave.
it. We are so much the richer for folks like you who do step up and make it so much better for us.
Thank you.
A couple of quick personal questions. Can you tell us about a time where you learn something new and change your mind about how you thought about something?
When I learned something new, well, so often we look at things through our own lens. It's the only lens we have. And, we make quick snap judgments. So sometimes within my business, I like to learn through my agents and their lenses. And I think it's also humbling to be able, when you've done something incorrectly, like I had one of my agents, I was moving so quickly. I said, yep, she was late for something. And indeed she wasn't. It was, I missed something on it. And she texted me and she said, Maggee, I wasn't late for that. And I had said it in front of a team meeting. So I thought it was important that I could, in front of the rest of the team, say, hey, ladies, I made a mistake. This young lady was not late for the meeting. I misread something and I apologized to her. I think it's important when you make mistakes, you look at those mistakes that you make and you admit to them. I think that's the hardest thing. People, we never want to say we're wrong about something. And it's okay to say you're wrong. You're wrong and you learn from it. So that was one thing that was, I just remember that. I thought, oh, that was a good lesson to learn for me.
Okay. One time where something didn't go as you anticipated, you faced some failure. And what was your learning from that?
So I love failure. I think it's great. I think that's how you fail forward. That's the only way you can learn. And then you get it out of the way is kind of how I see it. I also believe that when something doesn't go the way I wish it to, and I can liken this back to my business. When my client doesn't get a house, or when I don't list it and I'm in a competition and it didn't work out, and instead they went with a different broker. And although it's disappointing, I always believe there's a reason for it. And more often than not, I'll see the answers right away, and sometimes I don't. But I think you should never be afraid of failure. I will try things in business that maybe somebody else doesn't try, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But if you don't try, then you'll never know. And very often when I've tried something that people could laugh at, your dreams aren't big enough if people aren't laughing at you. That's kind of how I see it. So
anything specific that you are reminded of when you think of, turns or downturns at some point in life?
Is there anything specific? No, there's nothing that I can think of specifically, but if something comes.
That's fine. Let's go through a quick, these are the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Is there a movie you have seen more than 5 times?
Rudy.
Rudy? Okay.
Rudy. We're a big Go Irish family. If you're a football fan, and if you haven't seen Rudy, by all means watch it.
Great. Good recommendation then.
Yeah.
On my list now.
My Irish Catholic background, Rudy, it's all, about a young man who doesn't get into Notre Dame and fights like hell to get into it. And so it's football. I love college football. So, go Irish.
Okay, great. Most frequently ordered takeout?
Well, I should be eating salads every day and I don't. I would probably say Italian. We just love Italian food. Who doesn't love Italian? It's just so comforting. So, and we really like to frequent all the restaurants in town and all the different towns.
Okay. Favorite vacation spot?
My favorite, the Jersey Shore. There is nothing like the Jersey Shore. And we go down the shore in New Jersey. Go down the shore.
Have you been doing that for a long time? Since you were a kid?
Yeah, since I'm a little girl. Point Pleasant. And now Spring Lake, we love it down in Spring Lake. It's just, there's something about the water and the vastness of it. And, I don't know, it's so relaxing. So I love the shore.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll change gears now to the election issues. You are a candidate for the Township Committee. Just to recap for people who may be listening in, there are 5 committee members.
Sure.
It's a staggered election schedule. There are 2 seats that are open this year, and there are 4 candidates. 2 are on the Democratic ticket and 2 are on the Republican ticket. And each voter is going to vote for 2 candidates from any of the 4 candidates. You're on the Democratic ticket. What attracted you to be on the Democratic ticket? Are you a lifelong Democrat, or?
I am a lifelong Democrat. You bet I am. Since I'm 18 years old, I've been a Democrat. I believe that the Democratic Party represents everyone. Everybody's welcome under their tent. And it doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation. We are all welcome. So that's the party for me and has been since I'm 18 years old.
Okay. Now, well, this town is a good town to be a Democrat. It voted 75% Democratic in 2016.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people think about voting down the party line. Do you feel that the national, Trump versus Biden choice or Keene versus Malinowski choice should directly lead people to your ticket versus your opponent ticket? Or do you think the local issues may be different and people should pay some attention to what's going on at the candidate level? What's your view?
Well, that's a really great question. So first of all, if you're running on Trump's ticket, that's all you need to tell me about who you are, because you have an opportunity. If you didn't want to run on Trump's ticket, you could have run on your own ticket. And I just think that says a lot. For me,
You mean as an
Malinowski,
independent, you could have run as an
or
independent.
you could have run on a different line. You didn't, you just wanted those Republican votes. And I just think it speaks to who you are as a person if you're running with Donald Trump. And I'm running with Joe Biden, and I'm running with Kamala Harris and Tom Malinowski, and just for the things Cory Booker, our Black senator. I mean, these are our people. And so I do think it speaks to who you are. And I think Joe Biden's the best. I really do. I'm really looking forward to a victory. And I think with Tom Malinowski as well, he's been fighting in Washington to get us back our SALT deductions, to get us money for the Gateway Tunnel, and, worrying about the people around here. Listen, that man's has death threats against him, but by some false advertising done by the Republican Party and Tom Kaine. And that's wrong. That's just wrong. These are people's lives. We're to be of service. It's reprehensible as far as I'm concerned. So everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything.
Okay. So I did this with the other candidates, and some of the comments that I got were all asking the question that are the Democratic candidates avoiding participating in a debate and going toe to toe on ideas. That's why I asked the question that the importance of your ticket and your ideas is an important one to have that distinction. And by the way, thank you for taking the time. I know it took some time to get this set up, but is there any reason or validity to the question being asked that there is a reluctance to participate in a exchange of ideas or debate? Do you feel that way, or is that just the way it happened?
It's just the way it happened. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we had a wonderful forum yesterday. We had one with Happy Milburn last week. We also had, from the very beginning, booked dozens and dozens of either meet and greets or Zoom calls. So trying to coordinate 4 different people's schedules was not easy. There is no, I feel very confident in my positions of why I'm running on the township committee. We just couldn't get the dates back together. So I think that was just some type of a red herring that was thrown out there, because we hold our own. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Now, the first up issue is the affordable housing. And I know there has been a discussion here, so I won't go through simpler questions because this is a dialogue that's been going on. But just to quickly recap, our township needs to have a certain number of requirement that could be as high as 800 to 1600 by 2025. If we don't have a plan, private developers can come in and propose something, as was done in Chatham Road case, where 62 units are proposed, out of which 50 would be market rate and 12 would be fair housing. We have filed a plan which gives us protection till 2025. Now, you are a member of New Jersey Realtors Legislative Committee. And there was some discussion that I heard in the Happy Milburn forum about various options. And I heard a talk about giving tax incentives for elderly housing or other conversions of housing from existing, and you did not like that idea much. You felt that that's not a good idea and it would not work here as it might have worked elsewhere, like in Edison. Could you tell us what is about, how would that impact the economics, and why is it better for the town to try to do development? I believe you said that we should partner with for-profit or non-for-profit developers and try to do something in terms of building new housing. How would that work, and why is conversion with some incentives not a good idea?
Well, that's a really great question. So first of all, yes, with the Fair Share Housing Group, our township committee is currently negotiating with them on the number of units that have to be built within our town. And we owe units, and where there's future units. So that's where the questions are going back and forth and back and forth. And that's why we are immune from any builder's remedy lawsuits. And those numbers are all over the place. Originally, the town had said we only owed 17. Now they're trying to negotiate between 300 units and 1,600 units. A town like Livingston, which is a third larger and a third more in population, have already built 375 units. They already have on the books. We don't have one. We don't have one. We need to let that sink in. So we do need to figure out how many units we owe. The reason why I was against there are 660 apartments in our town. And when they looked at the project in Edison, New Jersey, and I did some research as well, the owners of those units were subsidized anywhere between 65 and 105,000. And don't forget, Edison's a town of 100,000 people, has a highway running through it. And they're just, it's a different town than us. It's just totally different socioeconomically. So you can have an expectation that if we were to do the same thing for the units up here, and that's if the landlords would agree to that, the fees would be much higher. Instead of 65 to 105, it would probably be more like 100 to 150 to 200,000 for one unit that we would, as taxpayers, have to raise taxes to subsidize. Also, you have to make all of those units then DMDA certified. So you'd have to go in and make sure everything was handicap accessible. So again, more added costs. And I just didn't think that was a smart idea. I also didn't think it was a smart idea. They talked about taking homeowners' carriage homes, seizing these carriage homes and turning those into rentals. There's about 10 of them in town. And we don't rent out carriage houses in our town, by the way. It's not allowed. So, you'd have to, change the laws, et cetera. As it is now, if there are carriage houses that don't have plumbing or heat in them, you can't put it in now. So I didn't think that was such a great idea. I think that we have to figure out where it is that we can put these units. We have to figure out what the number is before we're putting the cart before the horse. We could I do believe you can look at the DPW property. I do believe you could turn around and make that into senior housing. 25% of our units, a big chunk of our units then can be eaten up by putting senior housing. And seniors spend a lot of money. They don't tax the school district. They love to go to the arts, the paper mill's right down the street. There's restaurants that would benefit from the seniors. So I think to me that's a win-win, and you could work with a profit or a not-for-profit. You'd hire a consultant for that. You could do a ground lease on the property. There's so many different ways to start chunking away, and big chunks to chunk away at our numbers for the affordable housing.
But would the new development always tend to be in mode of 5-1, or is there a way in which, what is attractive potentially about conversion is you get 1-1. You convert one, you meet one requirement, and the number of housing units does not go up. If you create new, I'm wondering, I don't know the answer, can you do it without doing this 5-1 trade-off where for each fair housing unit, you have to allow developers to build 4 or 5 additional units? Is that the only way it works, do you think?
Well, first of all, the builders aren't going to build them all at one time, right? Secondly, I will say that I know for a fact that the building on JFK, the Maggee building, which was originally supposed to be ready in the fall and still isn't ready, probably not till December, January, February, they've got a waiting list for the market rate. And I think that's pretty incredible for them. We have a lot of people in our community, as they're getting older, they're saying, you know what, we want to stay as part of the community. We love where we live, but we just don't need this 5,000 square foot home, or we don't need to have this big half an acre backyard. So they want to stay here. So we want to still have that type of housing for people that do want to stay here. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we are required to have our units. We will continue to negotiate, which I think is important. And once we have that, then we can work from there. Again, it doesn't mean they're all going to get built at one time. They wouldn't. I think that's just a lot of fear mongering.
Changing gears to Sid, the downtown
Sure.
revitalization plan. Again, to quickly recap, it's something that the existing township committee has proposed spending $206,000, hiring a
Hmm.
full-time executive directors. And there
Hmm.
has been a lot of back and forth, specifically the noise I've heard about or the disagreement I've heard about is on conflict of interest in the way it was set up and a lack of a proper plan document or a vision document. Or now, I guess my question for you is, as you have observed this, and actually this is a similar question I have on the social divide part. You said something which caught my attention. You said there should be proper processes
Sure.
and methods for these things. Do you think there was a gap here, or do you think everything was done fine in terms of how SID got set up and it's working fine, and there is no gap in terms of how this is moving forward?
So that's a really interesting question. For me, I know that a vibrant business district is great for property values. It's great for property values. And
Mhm.
I would say probably 90% of the people don't even know what SID is in this town. They're more worried about COVID and getting their kids back to school and making sure that everybody has jobs and what is this recession going to do to us. So I love that the way the town came together and supported our businesses. You saw that they closed down Main Street. Our township committee was responsible for that. And it had a wonderful effect for not only the part of Main Street that was closed down and for the restaurants and the stores that are there, but it rolled over into other restaurants and other stores throughout the community. So I think that was a great thing that they did.
Mhm.
My big concern is if they didn't do that with the downtown in particular, we have a 17% vacancy rate, what that number would have looked like had they not done something like that. I think by hiring somebody for the special improvement districts, and now they've made 5 of them, right? They've made it larger. It's just not the downtown. It's the downtown and it's Mars Turnpike and it's on Chatham Road where I am. There's also by Annie Says, and the 5th one, let me try and think about where that 5th one is, down Upper Milburn Avenue. I think that's important that they're trying to help those businesses. Now, they're not paying anything. It's the commercial owners of the businesses that pay the assessment. That won't be till 2024. And I think it's for every $1 million, I think it's $665. And I think we owe it to our townspeople to have a thriving business district. We really do. And I will tell you, when I was speaking with the merchants down there and the restaurateurs, they were pleasantly surprised that it wasn't just the people that live in our town, but the neighboring towns that were coming here. You also have special improvement districts all around us, and those towns are thriving, and their vacancy rates are very low. So I think you have to give a shot at something. We really have to try. It's incumbent that we do something for our small business owners. Those mom and pops are the fabric of our community, and we need to help them.
Okay. Similar question. So what I'm hearing you say is there is strong conviction. This is important. This has to be done. This is good for the downtown.
Or any
Similar.
business district, any of the, it's good for it's really good for everyone. It starts to, there's something with momentum and energy, and people want to be there. You could see it.
Yeah.
You can see it when you go downtown. People want to be there. They're excited about how it is. They feel so many people, oh, it's got this European vibe to it. It really does. You feel like you're in Europe. And I think that's wonderful. And I'm so glad that Jackie Lieberberg and Richard Wasserman and Tara, they pushed to close that street down. I think it was great.
Similar question on social divide. Issues like this and many more will probably come up in the years to come. And again, taking up from what you spoke in one of the debates, you said that when something like Blue Lives Matter is discussed at a township committee, you need to be able to do that and possibly do other things which are similar in nature. Maybe somebody has to express some other view. And you mentioned there should be proper policies and procedures in place to get that done. What do you mean? How would somebody resolve to what kind of a process do you have in mind where such opposing views, where people are almost angry at each other for either expressing Blue Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter. How do you resolve something like that?
Well, that's always difficult, isn't it, when everybody's in such extremes? And I blame the top of the Republican ticket for that, quite frankly. It shouldn't be zero sum all the time. We really, really need to learn to get along, as it were. I think we bring in a diversity committee, and we start with the diversity committee, who then, work with the township committee and create the policies and procedures and guidelines so that we're not forced to, could you imagine if the Proud Boys came in here and wanted to hoist their flag or some type of a Nazi flag? That would be disgraceful. And so I think we have to look at that, and we have to, first of all, I will go on record as saying Black Lives Matter. I think that's really important. I don't believe I ever discussed anything to the contrary. I marched with my Monsignor from our church during the demonstration to show my commitment with the hundreds of others of people who, felt that there were injustices happening, and there were. So this social justice movement is alive, and we need to make sure that we are all on the right side of it. And I think by getting a committee together, we create policies and procedures, and you are not going to get 100% buy-in all the time. There are going to always be those people who will not buy into it, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you put the townspeople ahead of everything else, there's your win-win. You keep the township in mind. You don't want this dissension. And it's always the same 6 or 12 people that cause all this upsetment, as it were. And so we have to kind of, block those noises out and make sure we're doing the right thing for everyone. And I live by that golden rule: do unto others as they would have you do unto you. And I am a woman of faith. I think we should always promote diversity. I really mean that. And we should stand up against racial injustice whenever it raises its ugly head. I really believe that with my whole heart. So discrimination of any kind is unacceptable, whether it's race or creed or sexual orientation. It should never be tolerated.
Maggee, final question. How would you describe your brand or your essence in as few words as possible?
Who I am?
Yes.
I am a woman of faith. And my father, God rest his soul, he used to say I was his most diplomatic. Being one of 6 children, you have got to learn to roll with the punches and see all sides. You must always see all sides and try and bring everyone together. I think that's really important. Massaging things. I negotiate for a living. That's what I do. And I'd like to think I do it well. I've sold over 1,000 homes in my lifetime. I've close to $800 million worth of real estate transactions. So I'd like to think I know what I'm doing where that's concerned. And I think we have to learn to find what we have in common and work towards that and try and help people bridge the gaps. I think that's really important. And that's probably something I do. And I'm always for the underdog. I will always be for the underdog. I think that's really important. And we have to stand up for those people who can't stand up for themselves, who don't have the strength. We have to be the backbone for them and help guide them as well. I'm passionate about that. Too often that isn't happening lately. And so you'll always see me standing on that side.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for volunteering and putting your hand up and say you'll do something for the town. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank you, sir. You are so kind. You enjoy the rest of today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.